Hello everyone, so let us start with the second video. So in my last video I had discussed about the environment and population. So now we will move on with community dynamics and ecosystem physiology. I hope you all have gone through the first video, and if you have any doubts or queries regarding it, then you can ask me. So moving on from that portion to this one, first we have the community dynamics. So community dynamics are basically the interactions of the different species among themselves and also within themselves. So we can understand that in an ecosystem, if a number of species are living together, then definitely there will be some kind of interactions between them. Just like in an environment, in a school, in a college, in an office, in a house also, if some members are living together, then there will be some kind of interactions. Now, there might be some beneficial interactions where the sign is positive, and there might be some negative interactions where it is harming one another, then it is called as negative. So, all these different kinds of species interactions are there in the ecosystem. So first we will start with competition. So competition, like the term itself says, it's a very common term. We all know what competition is, and it is very commonly used in schools and colleges where there is a competitive environment going on. But in an ecosystem, competition means fighting for space, fighting for food, fighting for mating partners. So these kinds of competitions are very common in an ecosystem. So of course, in a competition interaction, both the species 1 as well as species 2 are in negative. But why? Because anyone can affect the other and anyone can lose the position, anyone can win, anyone can lose. So both are in a negative situation. So an example is given here, like the blue mussels, they are considered as species 1, competing with the barnacles as the species 2 for space in the intertidal zone. So the intertidal zone is a very specific space in the seashore where the tide comes and it goes away, and therefore that region is very suitable for these mussels and barnacles. So when they are together in the same environment, they start competing among themselves for that particular zone. So this is an example of competition where they're competing. Anyone can win. Either the blue mussels will win and the barnacles will lose. So then they will be in a negative, and either barnacles will win and the blue mussels will lose. So anything can happen. Next interaction is the mutualism. So mutualism, as the term says, that it's a mutual benefit thing, like both will be benefited. So example is given here, like zooxanthellae providing the coral with photosynthate and gaining nutrients from the coral. So zooxanthellae are giving the corals some kind of food. Photosynthate means whatever food they have prepared by means of photosynthesis. That food they are giving the coral, and so the coral is taking that food and giving them nutrients in exchange. So zooxanthellae, since it's a photosynthetic organism, so they are taking some nutrients from the coral. So it's a give and take kind of relationship, like a barter system going on. You give me this and I give you that. So both parties are benefited here. So therefore species 1 is also positive and species 2 is also positive. Next comes the very interesting antagonistic or predation, parasitism and herbivory. So antagonistic interaction definitely means that one will be benefited and the other will not. So predation, like you can understand what is a predator-prey relationship. So the predator will obviously catch the prey, eat it and derive nutrients from it. So here there is no situation that the prey is any kind of in a benefit. The prey is always in a lose-lose situation and the predator is always in a win-win situation. So therefore the species 2 will always be in a plus and the species 1 will always be negative. An example is given here, an antelope killed and consumed by a lion. So lion is obviously the species 2, the predator, and antelope is the species 1, the prey. Next comes the parasitism. Parasitism, like we all know, that it feeds on a host and it derives nutrients from there. It uses all the machinery inside the host, but it does not give any benefit to the host. Rather, it harms the host. So therefore, it will not kill it, but it will derive all kinds of benefits from it. So therefore, parasitism is also an antagonistic kind of interaction, where one species in the negative, the host, and the species 2, the parasite, is always in the positive. Then comes another one, the herbivory. Herbivory, like we can understand, is the herbivores when they are feeding on the green plants. So therefore, the green plants are always in the negative because they are killed and they are being eaten by a grass-eating animal, and the grass-eating animal or the herbivore is always in the positive. So all these kinds of interactions are antagonistic interactions. Next comes amensalism. Amensalism is when one species is negatively affected and the other species is neither affected nor benefited, like 0. So when it's not a positive, not a negative, then it's a 0. And one species is affected negatively. So an example, if you can understand, when the insects are crushed by a walking elephant. So this kind of interaction, the elephant does not care, like is not at all bothered, but the insects are dying. So the insects are always in a negative situation, and the elephants, they are not at all affected by it, and they do not even know whether they are killing the insects or not. So that means they are always in a neither affected nor benefited kind of situation, that is 0. So next comes the commensalism. Commensalism, like you can understand from here, just the reverse of amensalism, where one is benefited and the other is neither affected nor benefited. So, for example is given here, remora catching a ride on a large shark. That is, you will see sometimes in Discovery channels or in other documentary videos with underwater life, you can see that when a shark is moving with a high speed, then some little fishes are there hanging on with it, and therefore they are also taking a ride along with it. So what happens is that the shark is acting like a bus carrying all the different people, different students, and it is riding at a very fast speed. And the remora is just sticking to its side and getting a ride. But the shark is neither affected nor benefited by it. So it's just not bothered. It is allowing the remora to stick to it and getting a ride. But it is not at all bothered by it. And the remora, on the other hand, is being benefited because at a very short span of time, it is neither... It's not swimming and it's not like expending any energy, but it is just getting a free ride throughout the ocean. So therefore the remora is benefited and the shark is in a 0 kind of situation. It is neither benefited nor affected. And neutralism, the last one, where two species, they are interacting in such a way that none of them are interfering in each other's lives. So both are in 0-0 situation. Like one is neither affected nor benefited. The other one is also neither affected nor benefited, but they are sharing some kind of interaction. For example, two species without niche overlap sharing a habitat. So, like I have already mentioned in my previous video, what is a niche overlap? So, when the niche of one species overlaps with the niche of another species, so there will be some kind of competition and some kind of negative interaction between them. But if the species overlap is not there at all, the niche overlap is not there between the two species, then they will have some different kinds of niche and therefore they will not interrupt in each other's lives. And that kind of interaction is called a neutralism. Same goes for these kinds of examples as well. So like neutralism, 0-0, it's like wolves and lichen. So they are not, wolves are just roaming around and lichens are mosses. So they are not interacting with each other and neither are affected by each other's presence. Same goes for amensalism, like penicillium and bacteria. Where the bacteria are affected but the penicillium is not. And commensalism is like tiger and golden jackal. So whatever the tiger leaves off, the little remnants of the deer, suppose it has caught a deer, so it will not finish it off, the bones and some flesh will be still there, and the golden jackal will come and then eat the rest. So golden jackal is in a win-win situation because it is now not having to hunt prey or anything, but it is getting all kinds of benefits from the tiger's remnants. Now competition is like lion and cheetah because both are apex predators in the jungle, and therefore they will have a competition like who will catch the prey. Mutualism, like pollination between insects and flowers. So pollination is a very important process, and insects play a very important role in that process. So therefore the flower is also benefited because there is the spreading of its seeds and pollens, and the insect is also benefited because it is coming for the nectar. And predation or parasitism, like I've already said, that it is a plus minus kind of relationship. So here you can see praying mantis and bumblebee. So it feeds on this bumblebee and therefore it is negative, and praying mantis is positive. So up to here I think it will be clear to you all. Next comes the very interesting ecotone and edge effect. So ecotone and edge effect are two terms and it's almost a kind of similar meaning, but still you have to understand. Like I've already discussed, what is a biome? So biome is the overall like all the communities together living in an ecosystem, interacting with each other, that can be considered as a biome. So if you can see here, if biome 1 and biome 2 are overlapping with each other and there is this overlapped space here, then it is called an ecotone. So ecotone is basically that area where both biome 1 and biome 2 is combining. So here you will see all kinds of species of biome 1 as well as some species of biome 2, and also this ecotone region will have some species of its own. So therefore the number of species and the density of population in this ecotone will be higher, much greater than either biome 1 or biome 2. So therefore this ecotone region will have some different kinds of organisms, and the number and density will be much high. So this is known as the edge effect. So this effect is called as edge effect, and the species found in this ecotone are known as edge species. So they are primarily or abundantly found in this ecotone area only, and if you go from the ecotone to this side towards biome 1 or to this side towards biome 2, then you will not find these species anymore. So this kind of effect is called edge effect, and the species are called edge species, and this region is called ecotone. Okay. So the same thing is explained here. So like you can see that the ecotone and edge effect, so there are 3 species over here, there are 3 species over here, but in ecotone you find 9 species. And like an example is given here, there is a forest, it's a biome 1, and grassland is the biome 2, and this middle region is the ecotone zone. So sometimes the species overlap in ecotones because it is a transition zone, and therefore the number of species are quite high. Suppose there is an aquatic zone which is biome 1, land zone which is biome 2, and then if you look at the transition zone, you will find some species which are only found in transition zone, but the species of aquatic zone are also present, species of land zone are also present. So the total number of species in ecotones is much higher, and this effect is called as edge effect. So like I was saying about the species interactions, where you can see that the species A is in benefit and species B is also benefit, that is known as a mutualism. When there is a no effect 0 and a benefit positive, then it is commensalism. If it is no effect 0 then it is neutralism. If it is harm negative, benefit positive, then it is parasitism or predation or herbivory. If it is no effect 0 and harm negative, then it's amensalism. If it is harm and also harm, then it is competition. Next comes the food chains. So the food chains, we all have read about it in our lower classes, where food chains were discussed, and it's a common thing that it will start from the producer or the green grasses or the green plants, and then it will move on with the primary consumer. These also I have discussed in my last video. So the primary consumers are mainly herbivores, and then it comes to the secondary consumer, which are carnivores, and then goes to the tertiary consumer, which are also carnivores. They may be omnivores as well. They can feed on both green plants as well as some other organisms. And then comes the apex predator, and then when they die, then the decomposers take over, and then again the nutrients are converted, are given back to the soil. From their soil, the plants then draw the same nutrients. So this is like a cycle. And same goes for this kind of food chain also, where you can see that this grasshoppers, they eat the green plants, then the rats, the mice, they eat the grasshoppers, then the snake, they eat the mice, then the eagles eat the snake. Then when the hawks dies, then hawk is the apex predator over here. When it dies, then the fungi or the decomposers, they break down the body and turn them into nutrients. These nutrients come back to the soil, then along with sun rays and water, the grasses grow back, and from here the chain starts again. So this is a very common food chain. Now food chain can be of two different types, the grazing food chain and the detritus food chain. So the grazing food chain is like what I discussed just now. This is the grazing food chain, where the animals are grazing animals, or they are eating the grasses and the green plants and like that. But the other kind of food chain is the detritus food chain, which starts from dead and decaying organism, like the dead leaves eaten by woodlouse, eaten by blackbird. And the detritus feeders are also different, and therefore they are relying on dead and decaying organic matter only. And the grazing food chain, it relies on the green plants, green grasses and all that. So that is the difference between these two kinds of food chains. Now, next comes what is a food web. So when all these food chains are interconnected with each other, like it is usually in the ecosystem, it is like that only. There is not a single chain going on, but there are multiple crosstalks or multiple interconnected networks among these food chains, and therefore it gives rise to a food web. So this is called a food web. Like it can have, the green plants can go to the rabbit, then it can go to the fox, then the lion, then again the green plants can be eaten by deer, the deer can be eaten by lion, then again from green plants to rabbit to snake to owl to hawk. These things can go on, and it can be multiple ways, multiple channels through it. So this kind of interacting food chains are known as a food web. So the next thing is the ecological pyramids. So ecological pyramid is nothing but a pyramid which is shown to represent the different trophic levels in an ecosystem. Trophic levels means the producers, the consumers, the primary, the secondary consumers and all that. These are called each trophic levels, and these can be represented by pyramids. So the first and foremost thing there are three types of ecological pyramids: pyramid of energy, pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass. So pyramid of energy, like you can easily understand, it is the pyramid where each level describes the energy. So when we consider an energy flow, then it is always natural that the energy will decrease when we move from the primary consumers to the tertiary consumers, because whatever energy is stored in the green plants, the producers, that is consumed by the primary consumers. Then when the primary consumers are being eaten by the secondary consumers, obviously the transfer of energy will be much lower. So it depicts that the energy is minimum in the highest level and maximum at the trophic level. So the energy flow will always be in the decreasing order. Therefore, the energy pyramid will always be upright and vertical, like a upright triangle. It will always be like this. It will never be inverted because energy flow will always be decreasing. So at each trophic level, there will be loss of energy in the form of heat and respiration. So this is the pyramid of energy. So the least energy is available for the tertiary consumers and the highest energy is available for the primary consumers to feed on. So this is the energy pyramid. Like you can see that the loss of energy is there as heat. And from here, the primary produces the plants, they transfer only 10% energy to this primary consumers. From here, only 1% energy goes over to the secondary consumers, then 0.1%. So there is a 10% energy rule. So that 10% energy is only transferred to the next trophic level. So there obviously there is a loss in energy as heat also there, and overall the energy flow is always in negative, is always decreasing. So it will be an upright pyramid, vertical and upright pyramid. And of course from here it again goes to the decomposers and the recycled nutrients are backed into the soil again. So this is all for energy of pyramid. Next comes the pyramid of numbers. So pyramid of numbers can be three types. Like energy pyramid is always upright, but number pyramid can be upright, partly upright, or inverted. Three types. So number pyramid means that each trophic level will have whatever the number of members there in the ecosystem. So suppose the first one is this upright pyramid of numbers. So there you can see that the lowest level is producers and the highest level is the tertiary consumers. So it's quite obvious that in any case, whenever there is a green plant or in an ecosystem, when the lowest level is the plants or the green grasses or something like that, so the number of plants will always be higher than any kind of consumers. So therefore the base will always be broad for a pyramid of number in an grassland ecosystem. But when we go higher like this, then it will always be less and less in number. So the number of organisms in each trophic level will decrease as we go higher. So this is called an upright pyramid of number. Next comes the partly upright. So here if you can see that there is a producer, that means a tree, one single tree, and the number of herbivores, small birds, are quite big, large in number. So therefore the base is that, therefore as it is going up, it is becoming like this. And then again, when there is a single carnivore like a hawk, an owl, an eagle, like that, so it will feed on these herbivores, these little birds. So therefore this apex predator is again small in number. So once again the pyramid is getting like this and then it is again like this. So it is called a partly upright pyramid of number. Now, when you see that when in a single tree there are these herbivores, then the parasites. So if you move on to the parasitic kind, then you will see that the pyramid of number is inverted. So parasites are little organisms and they are huge. They are multiple in number. Then there are hyperparasites feeding on these parasites. So they are also quite large in number. So the pyramid is inverted and it is increasing. The number of organisms keep increasing at each trophic level. So therefore this is known as an inverted pyramid of number. So pyramid of number can be three types: upright, partly upright, and inverted. But pyramid of energy can only be upright because the energy flow is always decreasing as we go higher and higher. Next comes the pyramid of biomass. This can also be of two types, either upright or inverted. So if you can see here, this upright pyramid of biomass, the producers are like 1000 kg, then herbivores are 100 kg. So the green plants will always be in much bigger weight. Now pyramid of biomass means that in each trophic level, what is the biomass or the total weight of the organisms present over there. Therefore we are going either in an upright manner or in an inverted manner. So in terrestrial ecosystem, mostly it is upright. Like you can see here, the green plants are obviously in huge weight, then the herbivores, then the primary carnivore, then the top carnivore. So the weight is decreasing as we go up, and therefore the pyramid is upright. And in an aquatic ecosystem, the producers like the phytoplanktons, the zooplanktons, they are very much smaller in terms of biomass than the herbivores, the small fishes, and the carnivores are the large fishes, the sharks and all that. So they are obviously having a much bigger biomass than the producers in the aquatic ecosystem. So therefore that will be an inverted pyramid of biomass. So this is just the thing continued over here, the pyramids of biomass, both inverted and upright. So I think the pyramid, energy pyramid, number pyramid and the biomass pyramid, they are clear to you. Now coming to the last topic of this segment, that is the biogeochemical cycles. So this is very similar to what we had studied in environmental science classes and all that. So each component like nitrogen has its cycle, carbon has its cycle, then the phosphorus has its own cycle, oxygen has its own cycle. So how these oxygen, nitrogen, carbon and phosphorus are being exchanged within the environment and how they are coming back, how they are utilized, how they are broken down, how they are assimilated into different components, these are known as biogeochemical cycles. So it is, so in terms of nitrogen, like we already know, the atmospheric nitrogen can be fixed by the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Therefore, it is converted to organic nitrogen, and from here the decomposers can convert it into ammonia by aminifying bacteria, and from ammonia the nitrite bacteria will convert it into nitrites, the nitrate bacteria will convert it to nitrates, and therefore the denitrifying bacteria will again give it back to the atmospheric nitrogen, and the nitrates will be consumed by the plant body, and then the food will be produced, and from there the animals can consume it, and again from the animals the dead and organic matter will be decomposed by the decomposer. So it is like a cycle here. And the same goes for carbon also. The carbon, like atmospheric CO2, can be utilized by the green plants through photosynthesis, and these photosynthesis, the green plants can be either dead. When they are dead, then it is going into as coal, oil, gas, and these can be combustion, and by means of combustion or burning these fossil fuels, we can again get back carbon dioxide. Or these dead and decaying matter can be decomposed by the decomposers, and from here also we can get CO2. Or from these green plants, whatever food they produce, they can go into animals. The animals can feed on them, and then they, after their death, then again the dead and decaying organic matter through decomposers. And all these plants and animals, through respiration, they are releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere or into the air. So this is the carbon cycle. Next is the phosphorus cycle, or whatever phosphorus is present in the rocks and soil, that phosphorus, after getting washed off by the streams and rivers, then the water is containing the phosphorus as inorganic phosphates, and from here the plants and absorb this phosphates, and after metabolism produce ATP, and the ATP, when it is decomposed or broken down into ADP or AMP, then the inorganic phosphate again comes back to the soil. And from here, if the animals consume it, then it is also forming ATP, and then the cycle is the same. Now the last one is the oxygen cycle, which is the most important one for us. That is from atmospheric oxygen, the respiration, and in animals and plants, we are both taking up the oxygen, giving off carbon dioxide and water, and from here the carbon dioxide is taken by the photosynthesis by green plants, and it is again giving back the oxygen. So this oxygen cycle is quite simple compared to the other gases, but this is also the most important one. So with this we are coming to an end of the second part, or that is the ecosystem physiology and the community dynamics. And so please go through the videos, and if you have any doubts then you can definitely ask. Thank you.